Bonjour class! Today we're going to talk about conjugating ER verbs. If you have not had class this week, you should probably wait until I can give you your note sheet to do this. If you are absent, the note sheet will be attached to this assignment on a link that you can use. Okay, so we are going to learn how to conjugate ER verbs. You will find all of these ER verbs on Unit 3, Vocab 3, where we learned all the definitions. Things like arriver, étudier, jouer, rigoler, things like this. They're all verbs that end with an ER, and we're going to conjugate them today. Conjugate means you are changing the verb from its original form. We do this in English too. In English, we, for example, all of our verbs have to in front of them. In French, our verbs have an ending. Rather than to at the beginning, they have an ending. We are learning all about all of the verbs that end with ER in this screencast. So in English, for example, we don't say he to eat some pizza. We say he eats some pizza. If we were using I instead of he, we would say I eat with no S at the end. Hopefully that makes sense. In English, you drop the to. Okay, we don't say he to eat some pizza, we say he eats some pizza. In French, the ER signifies the to. To sing, to jump, to play, to study, to hang out, to talk, whatever. Okay, so the ER at the end of all of those verbs means to. And we're going to start to change them and learn how to do that today. The first thing you need to do in order to change all of these ER verbs for je or tu or il or elle or whoever you're talking about, the first thing you need to do is take off the ER. This leaves what is called the verb stem. For example, quitter means to leave or to exit. If you take off the ER, you're left with Q-U-I-T-T. This is called the verb stem. And we're going to use this verb stem in step 2. In step 2, you need to add the appropriate endings to the verb stem. Okay? Each pronoun or each person you're talking about has an ending that goes with them. If you are trying to say, I leave, you're going to take the ER off of quitter and you're going to add an E. If you are trying to say you leave, you take the ER off and you add ES. If you're trying to say he or she leaves, you take the ER off and you add an E. Also known as you just take the R off. That works too. For nous, we take the ER off and we add O and S. For vous, same pattern, but you add EZ. For il or elle plural, same pattern, but you add ENT. We are going to move on now. Scroll up. In order to conjugate or change étudier, so that we are all able to say, I study, you study, he studies. Étudier in English means to study. Step 1, if you guys look back up at what we just did, is to take off the ER. So, étudier with no ER looks like this. That is called the verb stem. Now to the verb stem, you're going to add the ending. For je, I'm going to put the verb stem that I see right above And if you scroll up and look back, or just look at your sheet that hopefully you're using right now, the ending that you add is E. This means I study, and we pronounce this j'étudie. We're going to do the same thing for everybody else. To say you study, here's my verb stem, my ending is ES. For he studies, here's my verb stem. Actually, we could just write the verb stem because it's the same for all of them. For all of these, you need to take the ER off because that's the first step. So let's just go down the list and take the ER off for all of these. Now, methodically, we're going to go down the list and add all the different endings. I already did this for je, the ending is E. For tu, the ending is ES. For il, the ending is E. For nous, the ending is ONS. For vous, the ending is EZ. For il, plural, the ending is ENT. And this one, I'm going to put a little star because that is silent. You do not pronounce that ENT. So he studies is il étudie. They study is ils étudient. Do you hear the difference? Hopefully. So if I'm talking about he studies, il étudie. They study, ils étudient. Because this ENT is silent. Okay, let's flip your paper to the back and do some examples with what we just learned. So here you guys are going to need probably Unit 3, Vocab 3. It's the third yellow sheet we got, which has all the definitions of the ER verbs. So go get that if you don't have it.
Samantha Grisay to the guidance office, please. Samantha Grisay to the guidance office.
Okay, sorry. So the first thing you need to do is, if I'm asking you to do a translation, you need to know how to say to ask. To ask, which you should find on your yellow sheet, is demander. Okay? I is je. Now, in order to say I ask, we don't want to say I to ask. So the first thing we have to do is take off this nasty little ER. That leaves us with the verb stem. Now I add my ending, and I'm left with I ask, which is pronounced je demande. Sorry. Hey, for she likes. First of all, we can just put elle for she. Likes is aimer, A-I-M-E-R. We take the ER off, and we add this is left with our verb stem. My ending is an E. So I guess I could have just taken the R off. Elle means she likes. We talk. This should sound familiar. Talk is parler. Parler points, right? We is nous. I'm going to take my ER off. Whoops, I'm going to take my ER off of parler. That's my verb stem. Now I add my ending. Hopefully this is making sense to you. All right, pause it if you need to. Pause it whenever you need to. Hopefully that is clear. Let's not forget about making things negative because we're having a bunch of new verbs. I talk, you can also say I don't talk. She studies, you can also say she does not study. When we add negation, remember we have ne and pas. You need to find the verb. The verb is all of these ER verbs that we're talking about. You're going to put ne in front of the verb and pas after it. However, let's not forget, you might also need an apostrophe. That is in case the verb begins with a vowel. I'm going to put this little note. If the verb begins with a vowel, you need to put an apostrophe. Okay? So, for example, you study, you plural is vous. Study is étudier. That can be found on Unit 3, Vocab 3, the yellow sheet. Take off your ER, and the ending for vous is easy. So what I'm going to do here for you don't study is I'm basically going to copy what I have, but make a space. I have you study. In order to say you don't, remember I need to put the ne before the verb and the pas after the verb. Okay? Since étudier begins with a vowel, I'm going to use an apostrophe. And then I'm going to put my pas after this. Okay? Number 1, 2, 3, and 4 below, I would like you guys to try on your own, use your vocab sheets, use this video as reference, and turn it in on Canvas. Merci!